Hello, hello. Welcome to Human Design Coffee Talk.
Welcome, welcome.
Today, we are answering some questions that we got on Instagram. Occasionally, we'll put out, like, what do you guys want to know? What do you want us to talk about? What do you want to hear about? Kind of like Q&A-ish a little bit, either about us or about human design or anything. So we're going to go through those today. And today's episode's just going to be a riff on a ton of things. So
Yeah, we gonna be riffing here. Okay, well, before we hopped on, we were already kind of jumping into the questions and seeing if there was anything that we were responding to or having a strong response to. And somebody had asked, is 3 years enough to grasp strategy and authority? 2027 is coming. And then Brandy and I were just riffing on our perspectives of 2027 and thought this might be a good way to share how we feel about it. Again, these are just our own personal lenses. We're not stating facts. I mean, my perspective is we don't know what is going to happen. We
mhm.
have an idea of what things might look like, but we don't know how that's all going to shake out, how long it's going to take for these things to happen. I know a lot of the things that Raw predicted are already happening before our eyes or have been happening for a bit, but we just don't know. We don't know what it's going to look like. And I
Kind of like
don't think
our,
it's, what were you saying?
oh, go ahead.
I would say I just don't think it's worth stressing about something that's that far into the future
Mhm.
when it's not like a switch is just going to flip February 2027 and everything we know to be true is going to go away. I think it's going to take decades for us to actually feel the huge effects of it.
Right. Just kind of like our own individual cycle charts, right? Like on the day that our cycle, whether it's Saturn returns, solar returns, Chiron, Uranus opposition, it's not like that day just, you know, things happen because we notice that, you know, as we're leading up to that cycle, things start to change, things start to shift. We know that with our solar return, like 3 months before, we start to feel it. Lots of people with their Uranus opposition, it could be 6 months before, and things start shift and show themselves. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now with like a global incarnation shift. And I do want to also pair it, Teresa, with saying like what we're discussing isn't from like 2027 literature, from Raw's literature. We're just talking about our perspectives on what we've taken in about it and kind of conversations that people are having about it. And also
Yeah,
to like, Teresa and I have gate 28. We have channel of struggle. That was another question. We'll talk about that. But we're always thinking about death and
literally always. I had
literally all the
anxiety
time.
last night and I could not stop thinking about all the possible ways I could die.
So it's
Just
just
laying
like,
in bed.
and it's fully conscious for us both. So it's just like right there. And so when, just to ease the anxiety of anybody who is like us and hears about a global incarnation shift, and thinks, oh, everybody's going to die, or I'm going to die, or that means this is going to die. That's not what it means. So,
No, I mean, Raw had his gray lectures. If anybody wants to look into that, you can. I don't even know who sells them at this point because different people have different lectures of
yeah.
Raw's, but they're called the gray lectures. And those are the ones that are really about 2027
Hmm.
to my knowledge. And he called them the gray lectures for a reason because there's a gray area in human design. The mysticism aspect of human design is a gray area. There's no way to prove it. It's not, I mean, maybe it is logical if you look at the transits, but it's not logical in the way that we can go experiment with strategy and authority and like prove that that works or whatever.
Right. Right.
So it's, we all have eyeballs. We can look around and see how things have changed,
Right.
especially since 2020. And to me, it's bizarre that we work in 7-year cycles or we shift in 7-year cycles, and 2020 happened 7 years before 2027. Kind of felt like it was getting the world prepared for something. So we can all see that things are changing, and I definitely think we'll feel a big shift and we'll notice, the if the 2034 and what is it 2034 I think 55 and 59 are going to be the gates. We're going to notice people being busier, people being more selfish. We're already seeing this.
Mhm.
People not wanting to get married as much, not wanting to have kids as much because that 3740 isn't going to be there conditioning us. But I do also want people to remember that those of us born under the cross of planning will always have that conditioning. We're not just going to all of a sudden be conditioned to be sleeping phoenixes. I mean, we'll see it around us, but we're still going to have that conditioning. It's really going to impact those born after 2027 under the cross of sleeping phoenix.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Oh, you just said something and I was like on to something and I can't remember what it was.
oh no, open
Oh,
head
just
problems.
like with this, we're kind of witnessing these structures that were created during cross of planning right now, and we're kind of seeing their faults in the foundation, right? We're noticing like, oh, stuff's shifting, cracking. Example, I own a building that my business is in, and I have been communicating with my banker and the SBA about like just some things with that loan, and the communication was terrible. Like I've been communicating with them for about 18 months about this specific thing, and it's just been awful. Something that should have been done in maybe 8 weeks max. And I got a response a couple weeks ago or a week and a half ago. And my banker's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Our SBA department is falling apart. Everybody's leaving. And I'm like, yeah, I can see how that could be happening right now. Also, that's not my problem. That's a you problem. And you still need to do the thing that, I pay lots of interest to have you guys be doing. You are my banker. But yeah, it was no surprise. I was like, yeah, that's definitely it's all gonna fucking crumble.
Yeah,
Everybody's,
these big institutions, I have some theories. And again, these are just thought experiments. These are theories. I don't know if these are actually what's going to happen, but I think we're going to have to depend on our local community a lot more
yeah.
than these big corporations
Mhm.
or
The
these government
federal
system,
government.
federal government. Yeah, I just think we're not going to be able to rely on those things to show up for us. Rhode did talk about how, what if you call 911 and just nobody comes? That
Mhm.
could be a possibility. But again, if we sit here and think about that a whole lot, then we're going to get really freaked out. And I don't know that fear is necessarily, I mean, maybe for some people, that's if you're fear motivated, that's good for you to think about all of those things, I would think,
Mhm.
like all the things
Mhm.
that could possibly happen.
Mhm.
But not for everybody. So that's where your strategy and authority comes in. And that's how you'll know that you're in the right place and with the right people. And again, I just don't see it being like, oh my God, everything's changing overnight. I know that did happen in 2020, but it just feels like it's going to be the kind of thing where you go to the grocery store and normally there's like 20 different kinds of bread to choose from. And all of a sudden there's only three because supply
Right.
chain got messed
And
up
you have to make
and
your own bread,
you have to learn to make your own bread.
grow
Yeah.
your own
Or
wheat,
you
whatever.
can't always, you can't get vegetables that are out of season all of a sudden because something happens with that. I just think it's going to be things that are inconveniences at first, and then it will probably start to get worse and worse the more time goes on. And then we'll just adapt as things change.
And also remembering that we have been conditioned to believe that big shifts like this mean like apocalyptic things.
Yeah.
That's part of our conditioning because we don't actually know what it's going to be. It's not like, we grew up and seeing these, learning about in school about these big times and periods of time where big things happened and then a big shift happened. And I'm talking about like Hiroshima and, big things where that was like catastrophic. So our minds might be quick to go to like something big. And also, we all lived through COVID,
Yeah.
and experienced what that was like. And just like anything else with strategy and authority, it's a tool to help you navigate. It's not meaning it's all going to be roses and beautiful and just floating through. It's the tool that you have, your inner authority, so you don't have to rely on something outside of you to navigate the world. And
Yeah.
so that's why honing that and experimenting with your strategy and authority and getting comfortable with what your authority feels like is important so that you can navigate that thing. It doesn't mean it's going to be fantastic and perfect and beautiful. It just means you're going to know how to navigate it a lot easier. You won't be freaking out. I mean, still probably mentally, as much relying on some external thing to tell you what to do, which is how we've been set up to do. We are taught how to do things in school and who's going to tell us to do things. And we have the federal government telling us when we have to pay our taxes. And that's another thing that I'm kind of witnessing here this year with this go around with the taxes. I guess there's that 2017 tax bill that's introduced this year, and a lot of W-2 people are noticing they're not getting as much of a return or any.
Mm.
And I'm just waiting for the revolution when everyone's just going to file exempt, you know,
What does that mean, file exempt?
no, not pay any taxes,
Oh,
like
yeah.
out of your paychecks. And then at the end of the year,
Can't
they're like,
they garnish our wages though?
yeah, but then like, if so many people owe taxes, that's like watching this thing crumble.
Yeah.
It's, because if everyone's like, if in solidarity, everyone in the United States is like, who's on, a W-2, and even self-employed people being like, I'm not going to pay. We
Yeah.
all do it. What are they going to do?
Yeah. What would a self-employed person do? Can they just take money out of your bank account?
I don't know.
I
Eventually,
don't know how it
probably
works.
they can, I mean, legally, but if so many people do it, they don't have the resources to
Mm,
go after every single person, you know?
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
So,
this is something Barbara Ditlow said when I was at Brayton's conference and she was one of the speakers. And she had more of a stern perspective than I do. But I also appreciated this because although I think Brandy and I tend to be optimistic and try to look on the bright side of things and come from the grounded lens of like we don't actually know what's going to happen. It was kind of a rude awakening to hear her say get really comfortable with the way she phrased it. I can't quite remember the way she phrased it, but so we have our own inner authority, right? We're used to answering to an outer authority,
mhm.
even like a police officer or the government. That's still an outer authority telling us what to do and governing us. And she was like, get used to listening to your inner authority over all authority, which might mean going against authority. And she gave the example of the fires in Maui, how the police were like barricading off areas and highways so people couldn't leave the areas where the fires were. And there were people that were just like, oh, okay, the police say we can't leave this area. And then there were people that just blew through the barricades and basically said, fuck you, we're getting out of here. And those, unfortunately, were the only people that lived, like the people that the police were barricading to stay. And I'm relaying this through Barbara's story, so I don't know the exact details. I haven't looked this up for myself, but according to her, there were people that did not survive because they listened to the police. And she was like, that's a really good example of following your inner authority instead of obeying an outer authority and how it could actually be a life or death situation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So to bring in a little bit of a different side of the spectrum there. That one just landed in my body differently than people being like super apocalyptic. I could easily imagine scenarios where we might be in something like that where there's an authority telling you to do something and you're like, well, my inner authority is telling me not to do this, or my inner authority is telling me not to listen to you, and it could save your life.
Yeah. She also said, like, get some land and know some tribal people. And
She said, get property, yeah, and no tribal people. And so, I mean, I know that's like, again, that's like a very privileged thing to be able to
hmm
purchase land. And we just had Vanessa Henry on, and they were talking about how their partner is native, and like indigenous and native people don't look at it as like, why do you need to own land? That's
hmm
kind of the
hmm
perspective.
hmm
And
hmm
Brandy's native, and I don't know, I kind of look at it as I'd rather you own the land. If you have the capabilities to purchase land, like it just feels right that you would own it, you know,
Mm,
and you would do something good with it instead of being greedy with it or whatever bullshit
mhm,
bullshit.
mhm, mhm.
So,
So,
especially if you're going to be sharing it with your friends and, you know, kind of trying to figure out a new way of life. But again, this could take decades to get to that point where you're really considering these types of things or
yeah.
not. Or you'll end up having a friend that
Mhm.
is just by happenstance able to buy land and then you go from there, you know? Or
Yeah.
you pool your money, you pool your resources.
Right.
I think we might be seeing a lot of that, like getting creative, pooling resources,
Mhm.
just not depending on the same, you know, we don't, our generation doesn't even know if we'll get social security. Like,
Mhm.
how are we all going to be able to retire and survive in our older age? These are things that we might just end up having to get creative about and figure out.
And we can already start to see like the seedlings of those things being planted or starting to spring up. People are, I think the sourdough craze is fantastic. People learning how to make their own bread and understanding the process of sourdough and how it's more beneficial for your body because of the fermentation and people being obsessed with plants and gardens and like nerd out on that stuff, when it can be just a hobby, because someday it might not be able to be just a hobby. It'll be like, oh, I have to like implement these skills so also following your strategy and authority. Me as a generator, if I'm responding to, I want to grow pumpkins and I want to grow corn, which is very hard to grow, by the way, if you're not like a cornfield, like growing like corn in your backyard. Bugs destroy the shit out of it. But
But
what
even if
you're
you don't have a response for that,
well,
like,
and
because
if
what
you
would you say to
don't,
somebody who's like, I have zero interest in gardening. I do not have a green thumb.
then
I do not
then
want to learn.
then they don't need to know those things to navigate forward. That's why we're
Exactly.
all different. Chances are you will link up with somebody. If you need to have a pumpkin, you will link up with somebody who can help you get a pumpkin. And so, but that's the thing, we all need our unique skill sets. We all have to listen to what we're being recognized for, what we are want to initiate, what we're responding to, so that we can all come together whenever whatever happens.
Yeah. If you have a skill set that you can trade for a pumpkin.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm not picking up a sewing machine or a needle and thread no matter what. Like I guess I'll be naked until I meet somebody who can sew me some clothes. Like I have
I
no
kind of
response.
love fantasizing about this little house on the prairie type of situation. Like, are we really going to revert back to like,
Like yeah, my husband has had a crazy childhood, and some of that involved like he would eat squirrels out of necessity, and now he doesn't have to do that. But he could again.
he could if he needed
He
to?
knows how to prepare a squirrel. So, like that skill set's just in the back pocket.
Yeah.
We never know what we're going to. And if we fixate on thinking, now it might be correct for some. I mean, I have channel preservation. I unconsciously prepare or prep. But like, you could look at somebody who's like prepping for something and say, you don't need to do that. You might not need to do that. They might need to do that, you
My
know?
mother.
Yeah.
My mother is a cross of the Maya,
Yeah.
which I feel like crosses of the Maya are preppers. I don't know.
Mhm,
From what I've
mhm.
observed, they're either prepping or they're just kind of aware of how to do that and mentally prepping. My mom is physically prepping.
Mhm, mhm.
And she's said to me, like, you don't have to worry about it. I have enough for all four of us, you know, my
Yeah,
dad and my husband. And so
yeah,
she's getting prepared for that. I wouldn't tell her stop prepping. So I'm like,
yeah,
if you feel the pull to do that and you're doing it for all of us, that just makes me feel like I don't need to.
yeah, yeah. Well,
That's what you're doing.
I have that. My mom, both of our moms are fear motivation, 3740s. Her mom is Maya, my mom's penetration. But my mom, I used to like ridicule her for like hoarding random things. But then like there's a time where I'll be like, hey mom, do you have any extra crock pots? And she'll be like, yeah, I have four. I'll be like, perfect, I need one, It's like,
See?
don't shame the people for what they're doing with their, my mom has a response to hoard random things that, you know, go
Uh-huh.
in her basement and you're like, whoa.
You never know when you're gonna need something. And I love
Right.
how she gives you gifts that are like survivalist gifts.
I have one
Both
sitting
of our
right.
moms are fear motivation. My mom, I think, gave me the same gift that your mom gave you, which was like a car emergency roadside kit.
Yep. Yep. My mom then last year got us an emergency generator. And then um this year she got me our moms have both given us like the little fanny packs that we put our passports in that's attached to your body.
I'm like,
Because
Mom, number one, I don't even have a passport.
if we're traveling, don't want anyone to steal your passport. But like I have this thing sitting on my desk, and if you're on YouTube, you can see this. It's a ball, and you put this strap around your head, and it helps with your brain, like because you hit the ball with your hand. It's like out in front of you, but it's like to train your brain. But like in my mom's weird prepper mind, it's like if there was no technology, like this is how you could like retrain your brain. And I'm just like,
It actually makes perfect sense, though. I mean, power to her.
uh-huh,
I would say
uh-huh.
my mom is your mom an undefined spleen? I can't remember.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. My mom's an undefined spleen, and her conscious son is 32. So it's a
Mm.
splenic gate. I wonder, because I've kind of been noticing this with certain people, where if you're wherever your conscious sun gate is, no matter if it's on an undefined or defined center or whatever, that's just like a big theme in your life, that center.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom having a splenic gate be her conscious sun gate, even though the spleen is undefined, health and well-being. I mean, it makes
Mm-hmm.
sense because that's an area of life where she's meant to develop wisdom, but there's like a concentration there for her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, my conscious sun gate is 12. It's a throat gate. I love to talk. I
Mm-hmm.
do things where I get to talk a lot, where I get to sing, where I get to whatever, use my voice in some way. So yeah, that's just something that I've noticed. But that tends to be, I see, where my mom is really into prepping. It has to do with like our health and our well-being and like being prepared for anything
Mm-hmm.
health-wise or like survival-wise, when it comes to our bodies and our physical needs in that way.
If you need a live, laugh, love sign, my mom has you covered. She somehow has preppered upon like wall art. It's not on the walls, sitting on the
Where
ground.
is that coming from in her chart?
I don't
She has 3955, but I wouldn't be caught dead with live, laugh, love signs.
I
But
mean,
like,
it's all
it's
those.
funny because live, laugh, love.
Mm.
It's such an ironic thing. Now, when we'll say it like, oh, live, laugh, love out of irony. But I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
those people are kind of onto something. Like, life really is about
Yeah. Yeah.
living, laughing, and
Love
loving.
it. It is. It is. So we can't shame them either. I mean, we can
No.
we can think what we want about the phrase and how frequently it's used, but one time I during one of my mushroom experiences, psilocybin, um, I had this we get these profound insights, and the profound insight was that life is the words on the rocks. My mom has these words on rocks all around her house. I have words on them like joy. And like you'll be in her bathroom and there's one that's like gratitude. And these rocks are everywhere. Peace. I mean, she probably bought every word and they are all over her house. And during this experience, I was like, fuck, life is the word. It's just as simple as the word on the rock. Like, so
The
profound.
rocks.
It's like she's onto something. She knows the secrets of the universe with these fucking rocks.
Yep.
So, and that might be the energy that needs to carry her through 2027. So, whatever, it's like you will have what you need.
Maybe do a mushroom trip and see if you have a realization like that. And then that
Yeah.
theme will carry you through. My last mushroom trip, my realization was that we make life too complicated
Mm.
because let me paint the picture. It was me and Thomas and Sarah. We did a huge hero's dose, and it's like the middle of the day is beautiful outside. We had like meditation music playing in the background, and I'm like laying on top of my dog, just cuddling with my dog. And we're all just like appreciating being in our bodies and listening to the music and experiencing the love of these animals and experiencing each other. And I was like, this is what life is all about. Why do we make it so complicated? And I was thinking more from like a material lens too. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
because I have an
Mm-hmm.
open ego, that was like a big lesson I needed to integrate. But I was like, this is really all we need. We don't need all the stuff and all the things. And this is really what we need. And it really impacted me taking that lesson forward. It took me a while to really have that settle into my body.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can have that's what I notice whenever I do a trip, which I haven't done one for a few years, but that was the last one I did. And it was very memorable. And I just randomly will notice myself coming back to thinking about that. Like, why am I making things so complicated? That remember how I felt in that moment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why it's the medicine, because it's like it keeps like serving you, and you can go back and like check in on those. Like, oh, like I got over my extreme fear of death on a mushroom trip, because I was like,
Mm.
I realized it doesn't matter. Like it was this just like
Maybe I
you
need to do another
you
trip and
freak
have
out
that.
of yeah, you freak
I'm
out
like,
about all
I am
these
not
things,
not
and
afraid of death.
it doesn't matter. Like it really truly everything's okay. Everything's all right. You know, kind of what you hear about people when they're towards the end of their life, and they're talking and they're just like they have this peace,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah. And when I almost died during giving birth to Weston, I had that same peace. I remember I had this mushroom experience was after that, but I had that same peace. It was just like it's nothing, it doesn't matter. He's fine. Everything's fine. You know, I just remember feeling that this incredible peace.
Like the ultimate surrender.
Yeah. That's probably why I live too, because I just surrendered real hard.
Mhm.
Acceptance. Yep.
Yep.
Transcend that limitation.
Uh-huh. I think this would be a good segue. We had another question asking about the channel of struggle and our
Mm.
experiences with that. I know we talk about it quite a bit, but I don't know that we've really had a full on conversation about it and how it shows up for us and what we've experienced with it.
Oh, also, one of the things we said before we hopped on, and I want to make sure I say it, is that
Oh, yeah.
coming from both Teresa and I's channel of struggle, like it's not worth the struggle to worry about 2027.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I just think you'll know if your
Yeah,
body's moving you to do something. If it feels really mental to you and like your mind is trying to tell you to be worried about it, but your body feels settled around it and you don't feel
yeah,
the pull to do anything about it right now, just know that you can trust your body. You can trust it to move you where you need to be.
yeah. And you can also go back and look at like when there's been other um, global incarnation cross shifts and see how long it's taken for things to actually change, like what changed during that, and then how many decades it took for all of those changes to really like come to fruition.
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of astrology stuff. I feel like just because human design is so fringe, there's not as many perspectives about 2027. We pretty much just have raw and yeah, I mean, that's
Mhm.
kind of what we look to as the ultimate authority on 2027. And so I like hearing what different various astrologers are seeing. And, astrology has predicted a lot of things. A lot of astrologers predicted 2020 in a way, but it was like not precisely. I mean, maybe there was ones out there that were saying it was going to be a pandemic, but they would make jokes like, I'll just be in my bomb shelter in 2020. And so if I would have heard that back before 2020, the astrologers were saying that they'll be hanging out in their bomb shelters,
Mhm.
I could have gone to so many terrible places in my mind. And yeah, 2020 was terrible. Like, don't get me wrong. I know a lot of people suffered immensely in 2020. And at the same time, not everybody did. And I would say like for me, there was a huge adjustment there. There was a lot of things that changed in my life. There was a lot of fear, of course, just fear of the unknown, fear of the health implications, all of the things, money. But at the same time, I think back and I'm like, I was safe, I was
Mhm.
okay, and I'm still okay.
Mhm. Mm-hmm.
So can wrap that 2027 convo up with a bow.
Yep. And we'd love to hear your perspectives on 2027 if you want to drop them in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, or shoot us a DM on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback.
And we reserve the right to change our opinions and stances at any time if things get absolutely insane.
Because we don't know.
We
We
don't
don't know.
know. This is us in our open heads just thinking about shit that doesn't matter.
Yeah, but probability says that it's not going to just be like we wake up in February of 2027 and it's like, fuck, it's not.
It's like all of a sudden birds are
Yeah.
just dying and falling
Yeah.
out of the sky and there's
Yeah.
acid rain and
Yeah. That'll probably happen before. No.
we're like, we're trying to set you guys at ease and then we're just making it worse. Like, let me
We
just
already
rub
have
salt in
acid.
the wound.
We already have acid rain.
Yeah.
So channel of struggle, two strugglers here. Um, One thing that, so we had Brandy Yates on once, and she is a projector 3-5, um, only has channel of struggle. And so we had a great conversation about that. You can catch that episode here on YouTube or on Instagram. But the thing I want to start with channel of struggle is, because it's quite funny that if we are in aura with somebody trying to do something, they struggle more with the thing. That's what we've kind of noticed throughout our experiments.
Yeah, like it could be something totally mundane. My example is when Thomas is building furniture or trying to fix something that's not working, even if it's like our Wi-Fi, and I'm standing there in his aura, he's going to struggle. And
Yeah,
mind you, he's a third line, but if third lines tinker, they don't always struggle, right? It's
right.
not that they have to struggle. They can tinker and they can like mess it up, and but he'll get to the point of extreme frustration if I'm
Hmm.
standing there. If I leave the room and I could not even be saying anything. I'm not saying anything. I'm just
Yeah.
standing there watching him. And if I leave the room or if I just even get 6 feet away from him, I could still be
Hmm.
watching him, just get 6 feet away. He will all of a sudden figure it out.
Yep. And I've learned that too with my husband and my children. But then even like we had a gentleman come to Inner Space to hang some more art on our walls because we have big, massive walls at Inner Space, and he has this big, beautiful art. And him and his wife were hanging it, and I was just like, I'm going to let you guys go take care of that. Because the last time we had somebody there to hang art and I was standing right by them and they were just having a hell of a time. And then I walk away and it was fine. And so I can actually see it happening that when I'm
Mhm.
around, people like they fumble or it's just not how they want it, or they have trouble, or they hammer their thumb, or, just something is
Oh my God,
harder.
that happened last night. Thomas and I both work at the same restaurant together, and we have these sliding glass doors that open up like a whole wall, pretty much like a whole wall of doors. And they've been broken for years and they finally got them fixed. And so we wanted to open them yesterday because it's beautiful out. And I was like, can you help me open these? Because I don't know how to do it. You worked here back when they used to work. I didn't. So he starts pulling them open and I'm standing right there just watching him so I can learn how to do it. And he messes up his thumb. He like somehow hurts himself on the door that he's opened a
Mhm.
million times like this before. And now today he's like, I think my fingernail's gonna fall off. And I'm like, God damn.
It
Because I
is.
was standing there.
Well, and I think there's something to be said too. And those listening with Channel of Struggle, maybe you can, um, maybe you resonate with this, that it's like we know how to manage our own struggle. So, like
Yeah.
when I'm hanging a picture frame to somebody, it will look like I'm struggling my ass off, and I'm fine with it. Like, I'm good. Or to them, it might not look as smooth, or they might not understand why I'm participating in the struggle. And for me, it's just like, that's how it is. That's just what it is. I deal with it. I'm used to it. Um, yeah. And I noticed too at work, we have plants that are really high and they have to get up on a big ladder and water them. And to make the ladder big, you have to like turn these things and then like click them into place. And I'm always worried about fingers getting smashed. So whenever they're doing that with the ladder, I always step away. I always get away. I'm not going to be by you when you're trying to do that, because I don't want anybody to get hurt, because they'll just struggle a little bit more than they normally would have. But if I was doing the latter, it might look like I'm struggling, but I got it. I'm not going to smush my finger. I'm not going to do the thing. It just looks a little bit different.
Yeah. So that's a mundane way
Yes.
that it shows up. That's just
Yes.
kind of funny and anecdotal, and also something for you to experiment with. If you have
Mm-hmm.
channel struggle and you notice people struggling at things when
Mm-hmm.
you're around, maybe get out of their aura, see what
Yeah.
happens. Because
I
that's
know.
it, it was, I think Raw had said it originally, where when he was doing presentations or using technology, if there was a struggler around, he'd be like, get out of here. Get out of here. And I was like, is that really true? And so I
Yeah.
started, observing. I'm like, holy shit, he was on to something.
Totally true. And Brandy Yates had a huge aha moment with about her and her partner when we were
Mhm.
talking about that. She was like, holy shit. Like, yeah, so if you're a struggler and you're listening, you know, because there's also this thing, like, we know how to do it, the thing or whatever, so and sometimes we can be passive and just standing there and watching, and sometimes we can be trying to get involved, and we might be making it worse for the other person.
I always
So
make it worse.
yeah. And
9 times out of 10.
and it's not like just dismissing, like, I'm not going to participate in that because I don't want you to get hurt or because I don't want to do it. But it's like, no, I literally need to remove myself so that that doesn't crash down or that doesn't take you longer than it needs to. Yeah. I'd like to
Precisely.
participate, but I either need to do it with myself or another struggler or step away.
So, thinking about it in the mundane way, that's how it shows up. What
Mm-hmm.
about in a more grander
Mm.
way, or,
Mm.
the implications of our life? Aside from
my
our extreme irrational fear of death.
my whole life, um, my business. People probably look at me like, why are you doing that? Why are you putting in that effort? Why? And I'm like, it's worth, like, one of the things you have to learn as a struggler is to be able to discern, is it worth the struggle or not? You
Is the
know?
juice worth the squeeze? I remember that
Exactly.
it was like a phrase from a 2000s movie, and I was a teenager and I heard that and I was like, that is the best phrase
Mm-hmm.
ever. Is
Mm-hmm.
the juice worth the squeeze?
Yes.
Of course that would
Yes.
resonate with a channel struggle.
Right. This is a high risk, high reward channel. Like, we go for it, Like, we're the ones that are, minus any ego definition here, putting $100 in a slot machine and hitting max bet, because it's
That's not my choice of struggle, but that's your choice of
it's
struggle.
my choice of struggle.
I mean,
But
it
it's
is the
just
game player. That's a keynote
yeah,
for the
yeah.
28.
It's very much high risk, high reward. But knowing when it's not worth the struggle, because we have that, it's coming from the root, we have with that gate 38, we have that adrenalized pressure, and we can really take ourselves out if we are in the wrong struggle.
Mm. So I know some people in human design don't like thinking about it through this lens, but I find it's really helpful to look at channels or gates from the lens of a low expression and a high expression, and it's a whole spectrum.
Mhm.
So it's not that the low expression is bad, it's just that that's one way that it can show up. And then the high expression is kind of the quote unquote gift of that channel or whatever. But
Mhm.
the point is not to eradicate the low expression. It's just to observe that it's a spectrum, just like you would observe, color transference happening. So, what would you think the low expression of the channel of struggle is?
The low expression of the channel of struggle for me, or like
Yeah,
from
yeah, for you. I
literature.
mean,
Okay.
both, whatever you want to share.
In my experience, it is creating struggle.
Mm.
And I've said this before, if there's no mountain, I'll build one. Is it correct to build one? You know,
Because I think if we're
it's,
not listening to our authority,
and we can so Teresa and I have this consciously, and her and I have discussed this before, how we can create mental struggle when we're not utilizing that root energy in our physically in our body.
Mm-hmm. Which for me, I've found that I do need to struggle a bit. And so
Mm-hmm.
the way I'll create struggle in healthy ways for me. So for me, that's like lifting heavy weights or doing a really hard workout, challenging myself in some way physically so that I can release that adrenal pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't feel like I'm struggling, let's say in my work or
Mm-hmm.
my even my relationship, there are all areas of your life where you might try to create some struggle just to get yourself to release that pressure to struggle. Because that's what it
Mm-hmm.
is at the end of the day. It's like it's a pressure to fight for your purpose.
Right.
And so if we look at it objectively, that's going to be expressed like in all areas of your life.
Because we have gate 38, the fighter, and
So,
gate.
you could try to fight with your partner just because you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling like you need to release some fighting pressure.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, wait a minute. Eh, is this worth the struggle right now? And I think
Right.
that's a question that I ask myself a lot, or I'll even hear myself saying, it's
Mm-hmm.
not worth it, or
Mm-hmm.
is this
Mm-hmm.
worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not always worth it. And sometimes we make things harder than they need to be. And again, on the outside looking in, somebody could say, you really don't need to be struggling that much. It might be correct for us to struggle in that moment, but not if it's
Right.
coming from our mind.
Right. And for me, it's like I'll get myself into these really big things. Like a lot of it has to do around, inner space. And people around me will be like, just give up or just, especially through COVID or
Just keep
anything.
fighting.
And I'm like, no, it's so you can't see it. You can't feel it. I can. This is worth this struggle. This is worth this cortisol spike. This is worth this like adrenal fatigue. Like it's like there's just something inside of it that's worth it. Like you see, I mean, we can even look very literally at a fighter or a boxer, and you're like,
Mhm.
we could watch them just bloody themselves up. And we're like, why would you even do that? It is worth it. Feels like that to me. It's like it is worth it.
It's like we have the stamina or we
Yeah.
have the capacity
Yeah.
to keep struggling when it's worth it. My example is from back when I was a personal trainer. I helped my boss open up. She became more like a business partner just because we were really a team. I helped her open up a location and we moved locations, and it was such a struggle for the
Mhm.
first 2 years of it because any brick and mortar is a really difficult challenge. And I just had this stamina to help her and to be there every step of the way. And, it was a Pilates studio as well. So we had all these Pilates reformers, and Thomas, my husband, and I and my boss, we all had to build all these reformers, and like we couldn't afford to hire people to build them for us. And it was just a huge task. And there were so many things like that where we actually just had to do everything ourselves. And I remember thinking back and not knowing if I was going to get a paycheck at certain times, or, not knowing if I was still going to have a job, because are we going to make enough money to keep going? And I'm still putting everything into this and just
Mhm.
struggling through it. So I know exactly what you mean, Brandy. It's
Yeah.
like when you have this instinct that this is worth it and this is going to give me purpose,
Mhm. Mhm.
and the struggle is worth that feeling of purpose.
Yeah.
We could empower struggle in other people.
Mhm.
We could empower people finding a sense of purpose as well. And this isn't all coming from a conscious place of like, I seek out to empower people to do
Mhm.
this. It's coming from the space of just by being ourselves and people like watching us, they could feel empowered.
I have a question for you, Teresa.
Mhm.
How does it feel when someone recognizes your struggle?
Ooh, that is juicy. That is a
Mm.
good feeling.
Mhm.
It's it feels like I just want to take a deep breath when somebody's like, "Hey, I saw you overcome that challenge and really stick with it."
Mhm.
And it's like, "Damn, yeah, that was really challenging." Because when you're in it too, I don't think you realize how hard it is.
Right.
It's like it's afterwards when you come out of it and you look back and you say, holy shit, I can't believe I went through that.
Yeah.
I can't believe I did that. That's crazy. You know, it's like you're just putting your head down and doing what you need to do when you're in the struggle.
That also makes me think about, um, I was trying to find this in my chart, and this thing of feeling like I don't want to share until I've overcome it. And I'm like, oh, that's a very channel of struggle. Like, I don't want to share when I'm in it, when it's all, bloody and my face is all beaten and battered. I want to show you afterwards. I want to, share it afterwards, because when I've confidently overcome it, it
And why do you think
feels,
that is? Do you
hmm,
think it's because you're afraid people are going to be like, why are you struggling? Or like, is this like people are going to question you? Or is it because
no,
you
because
want to appear
I do
perfect?
share, that might be six line perfectionism, but I also, like, I'm busy when I'm in it,
Yeah,
and I can't share the wisdom
that
of
makes
what
sense.
people could take from that experience that I had until it's over, until I've had that time to reflect and be like, oh, here's all this wisdom.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
And I
because I
mean,
even think,
I've shared while I'm in struggle. There's times where it's like feels safe to do that.
yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah, I feel like
Al-
I've experienced that.
Also my ego. And like I have, that 45-21. So like that you don't want the tribe to see you struggling, because then they might not trust or respect you. It might like make them question their trust in you, or what is she doing? What does
Mm.
she really know what she's doing? So when I come out on the other end of it, and I'm like, hey, and they're like, she does know what she's doing, but that was a fucking shit show that she went through to do it. But it was, for me, it's like it makes me feel alive. It doesn't
So
feel
when you see somebody else struggling, are you like thinking, oh, I can't take that person seriously, or I can't get advice from them because their life is a shit show. So why would I ask for advice from them or something like that?
like when I see someone struggling.
Hmm.
No, I have more compassion. It's hard for me to take advice from anybody.
Yeah, I mean, that's also channel struggle is like we're it's a design of stubbornness. We're
Right.
stubborn for a reason because
Yeah.
it's an individual channel. We're here to figure out our way.
Mm-hmm.
And our way isn't going to look like anybody else's. And so when people try to give us advice, especially, I mean, I seek out advice sometimes,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
do I? I
Yeah, I
do.
know.
I do.
Do we?
I'm like, do
Yeah.
I? Well, I'm questioning it because I feel like when I seek out quote unquote advice, it's really just that I need different perspective. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm too pigeonholed into my own perspective and I need somebody else that's going to expand my perspective or give me a different perspective. But it's
Mm-hmm.
not that I'm asking them to tell me what to do because that's a
Absolutely.
trigger for me.
Because I don't want you to tell me what to do.
This is why I can't work with business coaches. Sorry. I invested so much money in a business coach and didn't really listen to anything she told me to do because I'm like, mm, that's not my struggle. This is my
Well,
struggle.
and isn't there's like some psychological thing with that too. It's like where somebody tells you to do something and you're like, no.
Pathological demand
Yeah,
avoidance,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it.
like a type of, I think it's on the autism spectrum. It might
Yeah,
also
like
be ADHD.
nope. Oh, and my child just mirrored that to me like massively yesterday. I asked him to clean his room because somehow his room just gets to be a disaster every day and he's hardly in it. I don't understand it. Anyway, and he was like, "Well, I was going to until you asked me. Now I don't want to."
Can
And
relate.
I was like,
This is why Weston and I are friends.
I used to say that to my mother all the time. I don't want to do it now that you want me to do it.
Uh-huh.
I was going to do it until you asked me to. And I was like, looking at him, well, he had no intention of actually doing that in that moment, but he was like, you have to let me do it on my own time. And he has a defined route, right, with that
Mm,
1949. So knowing design is a blessing and a curse because I have compassion. I understand. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do it until I felt the pulse.
yeah. Yeah.
But
No,
yeah.
why is that? I mean, it's such a classic ADHD thing to
Mhm.
like, number one, hate mess because it creates more chaos for your mind. But then number two, be a freaking tornado and create a mess because we're like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, I get it though, because it then becomes a demand,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like you don't like feeling like somebody's demanding something of you.
Yep.
It's like it makes my skin crawl. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even we can do it to ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I don't want to feel like I have a demand on myself. It's like if I create a rule for myself, I'm like, okay, you're gonna do this, then there's this ominous invisible thing that is demanding me to do something, and then that pisses me off too.
Like, no, I'm not gonna do it. Like I was gonna wash my hair before this podcast. And then I even like put the towel in the bathroom and all of that stuff. And then it was like something was like telling me to take a shower. And I was like, I'm not gonna do that.
Listening to
I'm
you.
not listening.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I can seriously see that in Channel of Struggle though, when it's like you're doing something and like my husband, I will be doing something, and usually it's when I'm doing something for the first time or I haven't
Mm-hmm.
like already figured out how to do something. I don't know. And then he'll come in. He's a 36, so he's third lined a lot of shit. And he'll be like, "Oh no, I've tried it that way. Don't do it." And I'm like, "Shut up."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it just triggers me. And I don't actually tell him to shut up, but I just get triggered. And then I don't want to know his way of doing it. And then later on, I'll struggle, struggle, struggle. And then something will click in me. It's like, this isn't worth the struggle. Just go ask him the way to do it. And then I'll
Yes.
go ask him.
Yeah. I have that too. Because Andy will watch me and I'm like, I can feel your projector fucking eyes on me. Stop it. Let me. And he just, I'm sure our husbands could have their own entire podcast about watching us struggle. Um, but he just is like accepted it. I'm like, how does it feel to know that I'm your forever? But you get to watch me struggle until the day that you die. Like, also don't die, please. Gate
Please
28.
don't die. Please. Oh my God. It never stops.
It doesn't. Teresa and I were talking about this yesterday, and I said, "Yeah, I already have plans. Like in my mind, already under knows like what happens if Andy dies, what happens if Thomas dies. Like then we have to bring Teresa here, and if Andy dies, I gotta go down to Arizona, and who's gonna take care of who? Because it's always like this crazy thing, and it's not like OCD, but it's just always there. Like
Yeah.
something is always gonna be ending,
You've
or
called me before. Like, I think it was when you guys were flying to some tropical place. Where did you
mm-hmm.
go on your last vacation? I don't know. And you were like,
Oh,
if I
Saint.
die, you're going to be in the trust and you have to take care of Weston.
I'm like, he is yours. You get him. He's yours. You share him with his dad. You gotta come live here and
Like,
take
you're gonna
care
have
of
to come
him.
take over our house.
there there was
This is the
one
whole plan.
there was one day too where I saw this TikTok about making some legacy contact in your cell phone to where if anything happened to you, this person has access to your iCloud and all of those things. And I saw that and I was like, oh, I'm never dying. They'll never need that. And then immediately following it, I put Teresa as my legacy contact. And then I let her know, but if I die,
Here are
you're
all
my
the
legacy
things.
contact.
Just 28, 38 things.
Yeah. Yeah. Like when I was booking my plane tickets to go see Teresa, I'm going down there first week of March. And I was like, we were talking about where to sit on the plane.
It's like every conversation somehow ends up talking about the possibility of death. So I was like, why are the seats in the back the cheapest? Because aren't those the safest? My mother has always told me to sit in the back.
They are. They are. Yeah.
And then we're like, well, Brandy's like, if a plane goes down, I don't want to survive because then I'll never fly in a plane again. I'm like, I'd rather live than not be able to fly a plane.
Right. And for those of you listening that don't have gate 28 and you're like, what the fuck? Just know that the gate 28s in your life, this is going on with them consciously or unconsciously. Because the gate 28s in my life, because 28 was in Pluto, is in my Pluto, I think. Yeah, I believe so. And it's in the outer planet. No, it's not in outer 38's in your outer planet, Teresa.
Mm.
So there's a lot of people that that I know that have gate 28. And so this is just kind of a thing that we're all just thinking about all the time.
Mine's in my conscious moon, my 25.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
a driving force for me. It is a pusher.
I have it 3 times. So where's my third one? Let me see. Or maybe I only have it twice. Yeah. Anyways.
Anywho, that's our that's a wrap on so I've talked about wanting to get struggle bus tattoos,
Mm-hmm.
struggle bus
Mm-hmm.
matching tattoos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I even
I
designed one. A little bus with the bus numbers 2838.
I love it.
So, the people in your life that are kind of always like leaning towards that or thinking about that or talking about that, maybe just reassure them, like, if they have gate 28, and even if they don't know anything about human design, it really helped me understand that there was nothing wrong with me. I also see this theme coming up when like there's shift and change in my life, like something is going to get this feeling like something's going to take me out. I'm like, what is that feeling? And it's just because an old part of me is dying, you know?
Mm-hmm.
To fulfill my purpose further, I have to change, become this other version of myself that I'm just watching happen. That means there's a part of me that's no longer alive.
Mm. Yeah.
So it's
I
not
wonder the
actual death.
I wonder the difference too between having it conscious and having it unconscious. Obviously, we only
So
know.
Robin has it unconscious.
Okay.
And I've asked her these questions, and she's like, oh, yeah, like it's just like I had to kind of bring it out of her. Like it's not right there. But when I would talk to her about these things, she'd be like, oh, yeah, well, I guess I don't even think about but that is what I do, or that is what I'm kind of thinking about, or that is kind of this undertone.
Mm.
It's not as forward as ours.
Yeah. Crazy. Mine's also in my dream rave.
Same.
So you have it.
So we
Yeah.
have
So
like
we would both would
demon
because it's
realm.
yeah. And I'm not a dream rave expert,
Neither am I.
FYI. But from what I do
If
know,
you are, comment and let us know because
yeah,
we might
maybe
like
come
to
on
have
as a
you on.
guest because I'm real curious about dream rave. But from what I do know, that's your primary conditioning while you're asleep. And so it's something you can like wrestle with in your
Mhm.
day to day. So let's say, for example, you're a generator when you sleep, but a projector in real life,
Mhm.
might be more conditioned to behave like a generator because the program is conditioning you to be a generator while you're sleeping. So I don't know. I think, are you a projector then at night? Your
Uh-huh.
dream rave is a projector?
Yep.
Not are you a projector? The dream
Yeah.
rave chart for both of us is projectors at night when we're sleeping. So, and then if that channel struggle is active there, I would imagine there's more. What am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say that channel could easily become my authority if I let it,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like I could make decisions from that place if I'm not tuned into my inner authority, if my
Mhm.
mind is thinking, oh, this is the most important thing,
Yeah.
and blah, blah, blah. So,
Well, it's hard too because it's off the spleen, and I'm a splenic sacral direct connection MG. So like my spleen has a lot to say and to do with my authority. They're like
yes,
intertwined.
you're
And then
splenic
we have
sacral.
that 28 hanging off, or full channel struggle, but 28 there that's like trying to speak, and then sacral. Yeah, it's all I have to when I can tell that I'm trying to make a decision, a yes or no, based on if I think I'm going to die or not, that's not right. That's not correct. there's there's no part of my sacral that responds to dying or not, you know?
Yeah. And for me, I feel like it shows up. My mind will try to say, well, this will give you purpose, or this is your
Mm-hmm.
purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
my God. Before
Yeah.
I was really
Yep. Yep.
connected to my authority, that was one way that somebody else could even brainwash me and be
Yeah.
like, well, this is your purpose. I've had
Yeah.
like psychics and stuff say
Yeah.
that kind of stuff to me. And
Yeah.
that is such a pull for me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or it used to
Mm-hmm.
be. And now I
Mm-hmm.
can see, oh, that's my mind will try to do something because it will give me a sense of purpose, or
Sense
my
of
mind will try
purpose.
to, yeah.
Yeah, because that's what we're struggling for. Purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like even like having more children to me, because we haven't shut the door. So it's like if I had another child, that'd be a hell of a struggle, but I would feel purpose.
Yeah.
But I'm not making that decision from that place.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Mm.
wild.
Let's take a quick potty break.
Okay.
Okay, we're back. That'll be our commercial break in the future when we get sponsors.
Perfect. Are you cutting this part out?
No. I'm just throwing it out there if anyone wants to sponsor us.
Hi, we're new to podcasting.
Yeah.
Um, somebody else asked in that question, there was a two-parter to the channel of struggle question.
Oh, it was feeling cognition. You want to talk about that?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about feeling cognition?
I want you to go first.
Okay.
I want to bounce off you.
So feeling cognition, fifth tone. Um, we've kind of chatted about how it's very vibey. I feel like all the other ones, there's like some solid, like, what is it? Here's what it is. Inner vision is a little bit kind of like that too. But in like feeling cognition's hard to describe because every time I want to describe it to somebody, it's like I put my arms out around me and I'm just like, it's like can get all this data just around me. And it's quite hard to describe because you'd think feel like you're feeling something with your hand, but you're not. That's touch. But touch is also very frequency based. When we were in Santa Fe 3 years ago, 3 conferences ago, we had a fifth and sixth tone, the solar plexus binary like group. So everybody there was feeling or touch. And we had great conversations around, how we're more sensitive to Wi-Fi, how we experience life, how we interpret our cognition and just shared. And it was so fantastic. Um, Peter Burr was in there and he got struck by lightning and how that has, that's high frequency shit, man.
I wonder if we're just antennas for that kind of thing, because that's also been an irrational fear of mine is I'm going to get struck by lightning. And there's been multiple trees growing up, trees in my yard that would get struck by lightning. So I always thought I was so close to being struck by lightning.
For me, feeling cognition, and this is something that Teresa and I kind of bonded over right away. For me, it's just this, it's unseen. I don't know what it is. It's just like I'm getting data and I don't know where it comes in. It's not necessarily coming in through my ears or my head. It's like I could just pull it in the side of me. And for a long time, I was judging myself or others of the information that I was coming in because I didn't know how or what it was or how I would know these things, or I would just kind of pick up things from around people. I saw this happening a lot when I was standing behind the chair doing hair for 15 years. I would just like start wanting to talk about something. And they'd be like, how did you know to bring that exact thing up? Or, how did you know that my husband did this? You're bringing up his profession. I'm like, I have actually no idea. And it's not that I'm psychic, it's just that I'm collecting data, because if we're looking at cognition, we're looking at how we take in information and like it's this extrasensory thing.
Yeah. And if we also think about what we know about the fifth line, because once you start studying variable, you see how there's a pattern there. So
Mm-hmm.
everything that you know about the profile lines can sort of be applied
Mm-hmm.
to the variables once you look through it. So I had heard Raw talk about fifth tone feeling, and he was saying if you step into their aura, they'll have a solution for you.
Yeah.
They'll be able to help you solve your problems, and they'll know what your problems are. They'll just be
Mm-hmm.
able to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I've noticed, especially when I used to do in-person clients a lot. And I still feel it on Zoom. I feel like I can still kind of tune into somebody, especially just from hearing their voice. It's very
Frequency.
acoustically
Mm-hmm.
sensitive. So we pick up on the frequency of somebody's voice. But I would just know things
Uh-huh.
from sitting with somebody. They wouldn't even
Hmm.
tell me. I'd just know, oh, this thing when you were 3 years old, I think that's affecting you. Like, how do you know what happened when I was three? I'm like, I don't know
Right.
what happened when you were three. I just
Right.
felt it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I think about the heretic, the fifth line, and how
Hmm.
it's here for practical solutions. And I think there's an essence of that there. I also remember James Alexander telling me that I don't know if this is his theory or what, but that fifth tone people need to be engaging with strangers to an extent, because I was telling him
Hmm.
how I worked from home for 2 years and then wanted to go back to the restaurant, and because I just missed like being in public like that and being around strangers in that way and being around people, which
Hmm.
you wouldn't
Hmm.
necessarily think that as a 2-4, but that's a truth for me. And he's like, oh yeah, I feel like feeling cognition people need to ultimately be around strangers a certain
Hmm.
amount. So
Hmm. Yeah, you do have a solution, and you know what the problem is before the people even speak it. And that's what I was noticing behind the chair. I remember one time in particular sticking out. This would happen every single day, but this woman came down and came in and sat down in my chair. I started cutting her hair, and I just started picking up all this information about like her marriage and her husband. And I was like, how's your husband? How are things with your husband? And she's like, why would you ask that question? You've never asked me that before. And then it was just like floodgates. She had let it all out, and it was just like, I don't know why. I don't know why I want, that's the question I wanted to ask you, but we just kind of got in there, and, she left, and she was like, that was the most impactful haircut I've ever had, just because
wow.
it was just in conversation because we're just collecting
This
things.
is why I thought I was psychic for so many years. I mean, I
Right.
still
Right.
I don't even know what the definition of psychic is
Right.
anymore,
Right.
but I in 2020 I was doing a lot of live streaming on TikTok, and I would just be talking to people in the comments and try to like testing myself and doing cold reads on them and just seeing what data I could pick up. Not even, this is what blew my mind, because it wasn't even hearing somebody's voice or seeing them. It
Hmm.
was just talking to them in the comments,
Hmm.
and I could pick up on things. And sometimes I'd pull tarot cards and that kind of thing to give me something to respond to, but sometimes I would just pick up on it. But I'm kind of amazed that I used to do that looking back, because now I feel like if I try to force it, it doesn't always work. It's like
Yeah.
I don't like to feel like a trick
Right.
pony or something where I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and that's why I ultimately didn't want to do it for a living, because I'm like, if somebody's paying me, what if somebody's paying me for that, but for some reason can't turn it on that day, or I'm just not
Right.
getting anything. And
Right.
that's how I think about rightness too, because if you're a fifth tone, you have a right brain. So you can't just force rightness. You either have it or you don't in that moment. And that
Hmm.
person can either pull from you or they can't. And if you don't got anything, you don't got anything.
Yeah. Like Heather, my business partner at Inner Space, I'll always like when I go in there and I'm up front, and then I'll just start engaging with the clients, I'll start talking about them, and like, I'll start to feel things, and I'll be like, you know, did your service help with your knee today? And they're like, I didn't come in for my knee, but how did you know? And I'll be like, oh, we have light therapy. And they're like, I just had knee surgery. And there's nothing visible that I can see. I have no idea. I just start talking or bring something up. Or a lot of times through me, it comes, for me, it comes through in like a story that I share about my own self, about the exact thing that they're like, whoa, and Heather's always like, you need to be here more. You need to come, you need to be talking to people more. You need to do that more. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just interacting. Or can you train our staff? I'm like, I can't train anybody to do that. Everybody's different. You
Yeah.
know, it's not something I don't do it intentionally. I just start talking, and,
Mm-hmm.
it's very right.
I've also found that, like, when we were in that fifth and sixth tone circle
Hmm.
meeting, whatever, at the conference, I was describing it to people. I'm like, I feel like I'm just sitting in clouds with all of you.
Yes.
Like, there's a
Yes.
lightness to it,
Yes.
there's a sensitivity. It's, you know, Brandy and I bonded over this early on, how sensitive we are to seeing people get hurt or injured, or even if it's fake, even if it's in movies, I feel it
Yes.
all in my body.
All
Like
over.
if somebody's
Mm.
hurting, like
Mm-mm.
Thomas hurt his hand
Yeah.
last night. I couldn't even think about it. I couldn't even
Yep.
look at it. I started feeling lightheaded. I'm so
Mm-hmm.
sensitive to that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when I remember we were sitting in that circle and I was like, oh my God, I just feel like we're all sitting in clouds. And then I think somebody didn't realize what we were doing and pulled up a chair and it was like
Outside. It was like
outside.
they were like out there was a sliding glass door and the door was open and somebody pulled up a chair outside by the door and the entire energy of the room changed.
And I was like, oh, I wonder if that's a left person over there.
They were like, they are not fifth or sixth. Like, I don't think they know what this talk is about. Like we could just
Yeah.
feel
We could
it.
all feel that there was something different there. And again, it's not bad, just
Right,
different.
right.
And
Yeah.
we were in this cloud-like space with all
Hmm.
these fifth and sixth tone people. I feel like we were all kind of telekinetically
Yes,
communicating and
yes. Yeah. It was so cool. We were all sober, stone sober. And yeah, I remember that person came up and it was just like, ugh, what's that? It was just different than what was just existing here.
so how do left tones feel to you?
How do they feel? How do they
Yeah. What
feel?
does it feel like? Like when do you notice a difference when you're with a feeling or a touch
Oh,
person
absolutely.
compared to a left
There's
tone
this like
person?
synergy, this understanding. Um, and I don't know if it's just because their brain wants to understand, you
Hmm.
know, because there's things about like smell and outer vision and taste that I don't understand, like
Oh, I don't think
myself.
we'll ever really get it. Just like
Yeah,
how they won't really
they
ever
won't
get
ever. Yeah,
what
yeah,
right tones are.
right. Like for me, it's easier for me to describe inner vision, feeling, and touch than it is outer vision, taste, and smell.
Same.
Because I'm like, I don't know, smell cognition people, they'll use words like something's off. Heather does that a
Hmm.
lot. Something's off. She smell. Um, or something's not right. And they're just kind of like squint. She'll just kind of like squinch up her face, her nose. Or she'll like
Ooh,
rub her nose.
I've
Mm,
had an experience with a
with
smell cognition person.
yeah,
So my friend Sarah is smell cognition,
yeah.
and her and I were talking, this was a while ago, and we were talking about a mutual person that we both know. And Sarah said the exact thing, like just something's off and I can't put my finger on it.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as she said that, it was like I got this download of the emotional situation that was going on for the person. Like
Mm-hmm.
I could give you these exact details about their emotional situation. And Sarah
Yeah,
was like, that's it. That's exactly it. A couple days later, I end up talking to the person and they end up confessing all of this stuff to
yeah,
me that I was
yeah.
picking up on. So it's almost like Sarah, like I didn't get the immediate sense that something was off, but her smell picked it up first. I almost think about it like a like a drug dog or whatever, how
Yeah,
they train
yeah.
them to pick
They
up the
sniff it
scent.
out. Yeah.
Like I wouldn't necessarily have that like splenic reaction because it,
Right, right.
smells part of the
Yep.
splenic binary,
Yep.
but she
Yep.
did, and she
Yeah.
could just pick up something was off, but she couldn't pick up the whole emotional
All of
situation that was
and
going on. I filled in all the details for
all
her,
the
and so it was really
data.
cool. Yeah, I got the data. So it was cool seeing how our cognitions like worked
Hmm.
together
Hmm.
in that way.
Hmm.
Like felt like we were in cognition land together.
Yeah, like Heather, I guess thinking about that, Heather will do that stuff. She'll be like, something's off. And then I'll take the time to like feel into it. And I'm
Poke
like,
around.
oh, yeah, I just like feeling, oh, okay. And she'll be like, I don't know why. And I'm like, let me go in and just like feel. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, it feels like this. I don't know what that means, but
Hmm. So yeah,
it's
I feel like because if you also think about it, if it's a six tone or solar plexus binary, so for
mm,
us, it might even take time. It might need to slowly
mm-hmm,
reveal itself, whereas a smell or taste person might pick up on something right away, like
right,
immediately.
right. And you can always point out taste cognition people because they have impeccable fucking taste. Get on a Zoom person or get on a Zoom with a person like your taste cognition just
And
can
they
tell
lick
by
their
your
lips a lot.
and you can tell by their aesthetic, by their background, by how they
Yeah.
dress, because they're wearing jewelry 9 times out of 10.
Yes.
Like
And their houses will just be like decorated all
Nice.
cool and
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like they literally have good taste.
Yeah. One of my sisters, my mom and my one sister, my reflector sister, they're both feeling, my mom's touch, my sister's feeling. So we're both fifth and sixth tone. So I grew up thinking like this way of harnessing data was normal. Like, because my mom would always be like, I just got, I'm
Just
picking
got a
up on
feeling.
this. I just know that. And I'm like, yeah. And so like in my little conditioned bubble, like it was normal to sense those things and be okay with it. And I think that was very helpful for me. I think that's why I'm more open to it. It wasn't a shock to me. It's not a shock when I have feelings. I trust them. My mom trusts hers, my sister trusts hers. It's just how we were kind of raised. My other sister is taste cognition, and she just she thinks me and my other sister are just like psychic, and we're just, how are you guys so in tune, and all of that stuff. And me and my one sister were like, how do you keep your life so pretty looking?
Uh-huh.
you know um so I think how, like, looking at, if you have the ability to, like, look at your parents and your siblings, like, look at what you were kind of conditioned around. And if you are fifth or sixth tone, like, and you had, first, second, third parents, siblings and stuff, you might not be as comfortable with leaning into um, what your cognition brings you. Cause I can pick up a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
My cognition is not my authority though. So
However,
yes, go
it
ahead.
is important. It
Yes.
is, I mean, Raw had said, so might be interesting to unpack. Raw had said if there were to be a goal, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't know how he actually said this, but something along the lines of if there were to be a goal for following your strategy and authority, it would be to essentially unlock your cognition, to have
Absolutely.
access to it. So if you look at your cognition and you don't have any resonance to it, or it's confusing for you, or you're like, I don't know how that shows up for me, it might just be that you haven't quote unquote unlocked it yet, or you're not connected to it yet, which is not a problem at all. You'll
Right.
get there. But Raw did say it's almost like it works in layers. So you follow your determination. That's on top of the cognition, essentially,
Mhm.
because it's
Mhm.
color and then tone underneath that. So you gain a clearer, stronger access to your tone when you unlock that determination.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that being said, it's not that it's our decision maker. However, I do know there's people out there that are experimenting with their cognition, and I'm not saying to do this unless you want to, by all means, it's your experiment, it's your life, but that are experimenting with their cognition as their decision maker, almost as like the thing that's kind of guiding them. I look at it as it works in tandem at this point. And I don't know I don't know. It's funny though, because it's like, even though Ross said that, I'm so many sessions with clients where the person immediately knew what I was talking about with their cognition,
Right.
or I just notice it in people that are not quote unquote following their strategy and authority, or know about their design or whatever. I see it in them.
Mhm.
So how is it? I don't think it's totally dormant or it's frozen or anything. Like, there still has to be an element of it that's there no matter what.
Ours is so, like, data based that I
Yeah.
wonder if it just gets you more data. Like, you unlock
Yeah.
a video game, you just unlock the ability to receive more data. Because I've noticed when mine being stronger, I've always had it. Um, I'm more conscious of it, I guess
Mhm.
now. That's the thing. I'm more conscious of it, not, you know, because I used to do things when I was little that people wouldn't understand how I would know the thing to say, or how, all of that. And obviously, I had no idea about human design when I was little. And
Yeah.
my mom, thank goodness, just thought I was normal because that's how her and my other sister are.
I wonder if it just kind of informs your authority. I've heard people with taste cognition say, I think Sam Zagar's talked about this, but I've also heard some other people talk about it, where if you are kissing somebody and you don't like the way they taste, that person might not be for you.
Right.
And you could
Yeah.
think of that as like that's you making a decision then from your
Yeah.
cognition, but it's also
Yeah.
just data where it's like, I don't like the way this person tastes. So that's data for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas,
Yeah.
like, for
'Cause
us, it might be how we feel around somebody, or does this person feel good to us? Because feeling in touch is a lot about feeling good too.
yeah. Yeah.
We're kind of
Yeah.
hedonists in that way. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's in the Steve Rhodes material, if anybody's familiar with Steve Rhodes. It's not source material, but I think there's a lot of good data there. And that's one of the things he said about he puts them into binaries. So fifth and sixth tone are in like the same binary.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
it's all about feeling good.
And so if you are newer to human design, then we have smell and taste, ajna binary. Then
Hmm.
we have
Or that's
splenic
splenic binary.
no, splenic binary. And then
Smell and taste is splenic.
smell and take. Hi, I'm new. No, I'm not.
We can do this.
Smell and smell and taste are splenic binary. Inner and outer vision are ajna binary. And then solar plexus binary is feeling in touch.
Hmm.
So you
That's
can
true.
kind of look at those themes of those centers
Yeah.
and kind of understand where all of that's coming from. Because I do notice with smell and taste people, there it's a very quick, like, that's off. Something's off,
Hmm.
that doesn't taste good. Like, no, get that out of my mouth. It's very just,
And outer and inner vision are kind of weird because even though they're in the same binary, outer is left and inner is right. So there's
Mhm.
going to be a difference there where inner might be more about frequency and seeing things in the mind's eye, having a very strong inner world, getting data through the mind's eye. I'm saying the mind's eye, you know what I mean, where it's just like
Yeah, yeah,
inside of your.
yeah. I'm inner vision in my environment, and so I always see things. Like I was just talking to a gal yesterday and she was sharing a story with me and I just all of a sudden saw her as a crayon. See, and I'm like, I don't know. I saw her as a crayon and these things that she was talking about literally like people were like carving her how she wanted to be, but she was a crayon for some reason. And I just said, "Can I share with you what I just saw?" It's like you're a crayon. And it sounds like the craziest shit, but I'm like, I can see this picture, this image. I get these images to share so I can kind of see how inner vision people work.
Mhm.
Um, Sammy inner vision, she like is inner vision queen,
Yeah.
everything is she just streams in inner vision. She's an
Yeah.
example of somebody who's probably surpassed her authority as far as like when you're speaking with her and she's sharing with you what she's seeing, you're like, holy shit,
Yeah.
that is
Anita's that same
incredible.
way.
Yeah, Anita too. Yep. Um, my husband's inner vision, and he's so mental sometimes it's hard for him to share, but like he'll get imagery. He's like, I can see how this is going to play out. I can
Mm.
see this thing. I can see XYZ.
What did Sammy used to say? If she couldn't see something happening, then I can't remember if it wasn't going to happen. If she could not
mhm,
visualize it.
mhm, mhm.
I'm pretty sure that's what she said. But
Uh,
if you're in her
yeah.
vision and you want to weigh in on this, message us. But I'm pretty sure she said, if I cannot see it playing out, then it's
Mhm.
not going to happen. It's almost like it's blocked or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
It may have
It's
been the other way around. It may have been if she couldn't see it, then it was. I don't know.
Dude, her and her connection to her cognition is
It's pretty,
fascinating.
yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
mind blowing.
And then outer vision. So we're left with that. I mean, we're not left with it, but it's left, you know what I'm
It's
saying?
left.
We're left. Um, and my son is outer vision. And I notice outer vision people are very particular on how things look, even if it looks strange to the rest of us. Like it doesn't, they're not taste cognition people, right? It's not like everything's like perfectly curated. And it
Well,
might
because also
be
it's a third line. So
right.
trial and error. He might need to trial and error something. Like he might try something new
Yeah.
and be like, yeah, how does this look?
Yeah. I
And it's
have,
like,
I, I have like other outer vision people in my life too. Robin is one, and like she'll like make a sign, and I'm like, "Your outer vision, how is that crooked? Like, what? How you cut that crooked?" And she'll be like, "It's fine. I'll just do it again." So you can see that third line process there. But how they get information. I see Weston, like one time we walked into a chiropractor and the shelves they had just moved into this new office. And so they didn't have very much on their shelves. And he walks out and he's like, I can never go back there. And I said, why? He's like, did you not see their shelves, mom? They have to be psychopaths. There's nothing on their shelves. I cannot go back in there. Like I had to hold my breath the whole time we were in there. And I'm like, I don't understand what that means. I mean, for me, like I don't, I was like, it felt
Mm.
fine in there, a little like cold because it's new, but you know,
Like it
it's
needs to be visually appealing to their
visual,
own
yes,
taste, you know?
for them. Yes.
Like
And
I feel like inner or outer vision people need food to look a certain way. And
yeah,
it might not
yeah,
be appealing to somebody else, but to them that's visually appealing. And so
yeah.
that's what they want to eat.
Outer vision people, I can always peg them to in public, very much like projectors by looking at their eyes. Outer
Oh
vision
yeah, because
people,
they have intense eyes, huh?
yeah, yeah. You'll see that they are just, I don't know, just looking at you, like, or just
Sizing you
looking,
up.
or I noticed too, like in conversations with outer vision people, because I, of course, like a good MG HD person that I am, have charts of every single person that I ever come into contact with. Um, they'll like stare off like you're talking and they'll just kind of like stare off and then come back and like they're taking it in but with their eyes. I don't know, it's very fascinating to me.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah.
yep.
And they're kind of like, well, I say this because of my little judgmental generator, outer vision generator, but he'll like come in and he'll be like, that doesn't look good. Doesn't look good, that needs to be, you know
I feel like you can tell someone's cognition based on the way that they talk, the
mm,
way that they communicate what they're picking up, the data that they're
mm,
taking in. So you and I will be like, "Oh, that feels right," or "That doesn't feel right,"
mhm.
or I'll hear touch people be like, "Oh, that was really touching to me,"
Yeah.
or "I touched that," or "I touched into that."
Yeah.
Yeah, outer vision, that doesn't look right. I don't like
Yeah.
what I'm seeing. Inner vision might be similar to
Yeah.
that, or like I
Yeah.
can't picture it, or I'm picturing this, I'm
Yep.
seeing this.
Yep.
Taste will be like, yeah, that was delicious, or that
Yeah.
tasted
Yeah.
icky,
Yeah.
or and
Yeah.
smell that smells off. So it's really
Yeah.
interesting, like these common phrases that we've all heard. I think
Hmm.
we can attribute to cognition.
I think it's fantastic seeing touch cognition people, or like people in the healing arts or body work arena, and then pulling their charts and their touch. And you're like,
Yes, it's so
yes,
common that happens all the
yes,
time.
yes.
And I
And like,
also see psychics be feeling cognition a lot
yes,
and
yeah.
inner vision.
And inner vision. And touch cognition people, it's like they touch you and they know exactly where to touch you, you know? You're like, how did you know to touch me right there? How did you? Yeah. And they just, it's like their hands just, they just know
Hmm.
they can
I
touch
would
in.
I would be curious. So I think we're having your friend who's a reflector and touch cognition, right?
Yes.
On next
Yeah.
week as our next week's
And
guest.
she's a body worker.
I'm
But
gonna try to bank this question to ask
mm-hmm.
her,
Mm-hmm.
what is it like if, because they're number one, so sensitive,
Mm-hmm.
such a
Mm-hmm.
sensitive tone
Mm-hmm.
to be able to be touching strangers,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe touching something that you don't like the way it feels, because I've also talked to touch cognition people that don't like to just hug people.
Uh-huh.
It's like
Uh-huh.
they won't
Uh-huh.
just hug anybody.
Yeah.
They'll be really sensitive to them, like I don't want to hug that person. Or so I
Yeah.
wonder what it's like if you have to do it for work,
Right.
because on one hand it's like perfect because you have this
Mm-hmm.
amazing skill and this ability, on the other hand very sensitive to touch.
Yeah, or you get touched out.
Yeah.
And touch and feeling cognition people, I should say the people that I know, and if you're listening to this, I'd love to know if it resonates, that when we shop for clothes, it's just strictly on how they feel.
Yep.
You're walking the racks and you're touching the clothes, you're feeling them. Oh, that feels good. You pick it up, you're like, oh, actually, I like that.
Hmm.
Visually, you put it on your body. I had some time to kill yesterday and I went to a store and I saw this amazing wool coat that I like on the rack. I was like, "Ah," and I touched it and I was like, nope. And I was so mad because it was so awesome visually. And then I looked and it was like a tiny bit of polyester. And I'm not like a fabric whore. I'm not somebody that's like, it has to be a certain fabric. Obviously, I do tend to gravitate towards more natural feeling things.
Mhm.
But that little smidge of polyester ruined the whole feel of it.
Oh,
I mean, it was just so sad. It was so
I
sad.
my latest obsession is this store called Queens, and
Oh.
it's I only have one thing from them, so I can only vouch for the one thing, but I've one of my friends has been shopping there for years and says she literally buys everything from them, but they do 100% cotton, they do cashmere, and it's affordable. I mean, compared to
Hmm.
usual prices of that kind of stuff, like you can get cashmere sweaters for like 40 to 50 bucks. And something with them cutting out the middleman. I don't know. There's a reason. But anyways, I bought a sweater from them a couple months ago that's 100% cotton. And I think it's the first sweater I've had that I can remember that's 100% cotton. And I'm kind of ruined for sweaters now because now I
Right.
just only want to wear that sweater because it feels so good on my body. And I had this other sweater I was wearing that felt pretty comfortable, but I just noticed I would like sweat really easily in it. It was like
Hmm.
super
Hmm.
soft, but I would just get really sweaty and almost too hot. And then I see, oh, there's a ton of polyester in it. And now I have something to compare it to where I want that 100% cotton now.
Yeah. And if you see, probably feeling and touch people can relate. It's like we're dressing because of how it feels, not because of how it looks. So if I
Yeah.
look like a crazy person, it's because it feels really good. Like I will wear the weirdest shit and I'm like, it feels good. That's all I need. I'm
Hmm.
floating on a cloud feeling good. I don't care what it looks like.
Yep.
So
Again,
it's
hedonists over here.
very far removed from taste cognition, people. When you like
So,
Juji's taste cognition, she's
mm,
always looking fantastic.
looking,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
chef's kiss, Judy, if you're listening, style on point. I was gonna say, so we live in a left dominant world right now, and I think the background frequency is left, or that whole aspect of the 2027 thing confuses me. Like we're going from left to right, and I
Mm,
don't know if it's because people born after 2027 are gonna be more right, or
mm.
I don't know. I don't want to give incorrect information. All I know is we're going from left to right. And so if more people are right, or we're going to that way of life more in the future, more people are going to be hedonists
Yeah.
and just only caring about feeling good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't say only caring, but I would say driven by
Yeah.
feeling good or having that be a important thing, a very important thing.
So me and the my first business partner with from Inner Space, she's feeling cognition also. Our first like tagline for Inner Space was find what feels good. And then there's some people who are like, that doesn't matter. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is before I knew about you. I'm like, that's the only thing that matters.
The only thing.
The only thing.
So this is in Steve Rhodes' work. I don't know if Robert talked about this, but if you have, so you can look at your chart and see if you are like first or second tone on both sides, or third and fourth tone, or fifth and sixth tone. And so he puts them into binary. So there's three different categories. So there's success, respect, and feeling. And first and second tone are success. And he means by success, he means like monetary success, or it's like it's like being a winner, right?
Hmm.
Winning something, getting a prize, experiencing some sort of physical or monetary success. So those people they might be double success tones and
Hmm.
they're super driven by money, and they might sacrifice feeling good or sacrifice even respect to be seen as successful or get money. And then there's respect, which is more about gaining respect from people. So you could be a mix of these things, right? If you're like fourth tone and fifth tone, you could be respect feeling.
Mm,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So for me, I'm
fascinating.
double feeling. So are you, because we're feeling and acceptance
Yep.
sense.
Yep. Yep.
So fifth and sixth tone. My husband is also double feeling. fifth and sixth tone. So really all the three of us care about
Yeah,
is
yeah,
feeling good. And then
yeah,
Andy throws something different into the mix of our penta.
yeah, yeah. It's always nice. And I use inner space a lot because it's something that I've like created out of like what feels good. And people will walk in there and that's the first thing they say, oh, it feels so good in here.
Yeah,
Feels
what a
so good in
compliment
here,
for a
you
feeling
know?
cognition person.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's the goal. That's the only goal. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter
and
what it looks like.
to me, I mean, again, Steve Rhodes stuff is not like set in stone source material, but I feel like there's a lot of truth to it from what I've noticed because I've always kind of attributed it to my ADHD or something where I'm just
Mhm.
like, I don't know, I don't want to do it if it doesn't feel good. And
Right.
I won't be sacrificial of myself and my
Yep.
feeling good just to get money or
Right.
just to win somebody's respect. I'm like, no, feeling good is actually the most important. And I think he talks about it relating to mood. So you could be in
Mm.
a bad mood if you don't feel good. And I've noticed you and I very quickly can be in bad mood if we're hungry, if something's
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
if
Mm-hmm.
something, if we're having to sacrifice our feeling good for something, if something is preventing us from feeling good,
Well,
we
and
can
like
easily go into a bad mood.
absolutely, or getting into situations, and this might help somebody listening where you go to an event or you go to a social gathering, an outing or whatever, where you're supposed to feel good. Like the whole thing is like you're supposed to feel good, and you're like, I don't feel good here. I don't
Hmm.
feel good. This isn't, and then you might think something's wrong with you, and there's nothing wrong with you. Don't put your joy into like what it needs to be, what it should be, you know? And I think because I've done that myself, like I should feel amazing here. And I feel like garbage. This does not feel good to me at all. But everybody
Yep.
else is like, yay. And I'm like, no, I'd rather let me
I
leave.
remember one time I went out with both of my sister-in-laws. This was like last year, and it had to have been around the time where the weather was changing. Like it was still cold at night, but like really warm during the day. And we were going out downtown like during the day. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna wear like my Doc Martens and da da da. And kind of get dressed for winter. And then I show up to their house and they're both wearing shorts, tank tops, and like flip-flops. And I was like, oh no, should I have worn, like, I guess it is like 75 degrees out. And I just didn't even think about it. And we go out downtown and I'm so hot. Like my feet were so hot and I'm seeing them all comfortable in their flip-flops. And I'm like, God damn it. And I was just, it like ruined my whole night. And then
Uh-huh.
Thomas came to pick us up later and I'm like, bring me sandals. And I just remember like crying to him to bring me sandals. And my mood was just so bad because I couldn't stop thinking about how uncomfortable I was all night and how I didn't feel good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can like just from a very mundane standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
it can
Mm-hmm.
absolutely affect your mood
Yeah. And on the reverse of that, people wonder why I wear Birkenstocks year round.
because they feel good to you.
Because they feel good to me. Like when my feet are covered up, besides when I'm like wearing tennis shoes and walking, you know, or like extreme blizzard, I'll put my boots on if I have to shovel or whatever. But they're like, "Well, are you crazy?" I'm like, no, my feet, it feels good. If I wear any other shoes, I don't feel right.
And you're cold thirst,
And I'm
so
cold there. So
that
I'm
kind of informs that as well because you can overheat really easily. So feeling good for you is being temperature
cool.
regulated.
Oh yeah. 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 So,
Yep.
and all the narrative around like there's something wrong with you if you're warm all the time, if you can't, if your, you know, your body temperature regulation. I'm like, no, I just run hot. I need to be cool all the
Yeah.
time. There's nothing wrong with me.
So I noticed the same with Thomas. Like it's like all about feeling good. And again, we can be looked at as a little hedonistic because we're like, we
Mhm.
want the food that tastes really good or the massage or whatever. And like we might base a whole vacation around that. Like I don't
Yep.
care if we go do any of this shit. I just want to feel good. So where do you notice the difference in Andy? Because he is inner vision, so he would be respect. I don't know his other tone.
I'm looking it up right now. His action
So so
sense.
he's
So
double
he's double
respect.
respect.
And he does things like disc golf competitions where he gets respect for being good at disc golf.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And even at work, think about at work how you've had to like tell him to ask for more money or
Yeah.
whatever, because if he's getting the respect, and I think we can also kind of attribute this to 3740, but now it makes a lot more sense with Andy, because I won't see Thomas do stuff just for respect. Like it has
Right.
to like feel good for him
Right.
too.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm like, because he's had job opportunities. He almost took this job last year that was GM of this like fine dining restaurant. It would have been a great resume builder. He was thinking about going back to the restaurant industry and leaving his sales job. And it would have been like a very respectable position, especially in Phoenix. Just the restaurant group was like a really well known and like successful restaurant group. And he could have gotten a pay bump too. It was like success and respect. And he was like, no, it doesn't feel like my vibe,
Well, yeah, because that
doesn't
was the
feel good.
question.
That was the question
That
Andy
was the
asked.
question Andy asked was, can you work in that vibe? Do you
Uh-huh.
want to go to work every day in that in something
And
that's not
he
your vibe?
yes, and he talks about why he ended up staying in his sales job now, which is now starting to like really pan out well for him. But he stayed in it because it felt good for him, because he gets to work from home, because it's selling something that he's passionate about. It's working with a team that feels good for him. At the time it wasn't necessarily the amount of money that he wanted, but it's almost like he was trying to make a decision. And here's the thing too that Steve Rhodes says. This is just turned into a whole Steve Rhodes thing. But your nodes are important too. So whatever are in your nodes are what your mind or whatever will try to trick you into thinking you want.
Hmm.
So I can't remember what Thomas's nodes are, but let's just say, for example, his nodes are respect. He might be tempted to go for a job that he'll get respect in, but in reality, he needs a job that feels good for him. But he might
Ah.
like being surrounded by people that are respect. So maybe
Were you
that's why
looking at
he,
are you looking at the lines of his nodes? Because I have
so
them
the
right here.
tone of his nodes.
Oh, okay. Tones. Acceptance. So tone 6. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's his other one?
That's the personality side. It's
In his
acceptance.
nodes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Both of them.
So he's all feeling.
His all feeling. Now his body side is tone 2.
So success.
Yeah.
So okay. So he actually, that makes a lot of sense then, because that job was more money, and he actually worked a job last year that he was getting paid more money, and he hated it, and it wasn't worth the money to him because he didn't like the way he felt. So he left.
Yeah, mine are both in respect. Hmm.
I think mine might be feeling and respect, maybe.
Let me
I don't
look.
know. This is data, you guys. Important information.
Success oh wait, no, that's your moon. Sorry.
Oh.
We're looking at okay, respect and yeah, you're right. Feeling.
So
So tone
I'm
5.
drawn to hang out with people that are respect and feeling.
Uh-huh.
And my mind could easily say, you need a job that's respectable,
Mm.
which is a trigger for me. So
Same.
now we can start to see, if you want to experiment with this, you can start to assess, oh, decisions that I almost made that maybe ended up not being correct for me, or I got into it and it wasn't correct for me. Were you getting pulled by your nodes by thinking
Mm.
that you need to be what it is that you like to be surrounded by? Because for me, I like being friends with people who are respect tone. I like watching them, but it's not necessarily correct for me to be driven by that,
Mm-hmm.
or that won't affect my mood, right? That might put me in a bad mood to just do something for the respect. For me, it has to feel good.
We're just feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
Just have to feel good all
Super
the time.
interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think about Andy and like his job. I mean, we had him on episode 2, you guys, if you haven't listened to it. He talked a lot about this, how like he gets respect at his job, and that feels
Mm-hmm.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Puts him in a
Mm-hmm.
good mood to be respected.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, it's like getting money can feel good if we can
Right.
use it for things that make us feel good.
Right. We're like, I'm here for the feeling. And if money brings me the feeling, that's cool.
That's
But if it doesn't,
cool.
that's cool. If I can just feel
If I
it,
can
I
get
don't
it a
need them.
different way, I'm
Yeah.
fine with that.
Right. My currency is satisfaction and feeling good.
So I would be curious to any of our listeners, if you want to message us, if you're having an aha moment or this doesn't feel true for you at all. This is new data that is basically being tested in the experiment to
Yeah.
see if it resonates or not.
Experiment away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love where this conversation went today.
I know. I feel like this is a good stopping point because we're at like what, 2 hours?
Sure.
We can just jam out for 2 hours, no prob.
Yeah. And as always, we are always accepting things to respond to in our DMs on Instagram at Human Design Coffee Talk. If there's anything that you want to hear us talk about, any guests that you'd like to have us have see on Human Design Coffee Talk, just drop it in our DMs. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, drop a comment because we do check those.
I
Yeah.
do have to say though, just to be honest, to put a disclaimer out there, since Brandy and I are both fourth lines, we don't necessarily love when people message us and say, I would love to come on the podcast.
Oh, yeah,
Because
yeah.
it just if okay, it's one thing if we know you and you're like in our network and we have a foundation with you. It's
Hmm.
another thing if we have no idea who you are and you're just like a random person. I'm not trying to sound mean right now, but that's just kind of how we are. We want to have some kind of foundation with somebody. So it's not to say if you reach out to us, we'll never have you on, but just know that we'll have to take some time to get to know you. And this platform is not meant to just be a marketing platform to promote something. And sometimes that's what it feels like when people reach out and they're like, I want to come on. It just feels like they're wanting to come on and promote something where we want to keep it like we're recognizing something in somebody and we want to have a
Hmm.
conversation with them
Hmm.
because we're interested in them and we're curious about them, not just
Hmm.
because they want to come on here and promote something.
Yeah. Because we just love doing this because it feels good.
Yeah. And if you want to promote something and if we asked you to come on and you end up being able to promote something, that's totally fine. But not that be like the whole
Yeah.
thing. You know, it just feels icky to us. And yeah, we want to know you first. We're not fifth lines. We're not here to just like jump on a call with strangers and be like, let's jam out, you know? So
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for listening today. This felt good.
yeah, that's what we're all about. It's feeling good.
Awesome.
So we'll see you next time.
Bye.